and good afternoon. First at noon, in effort to boost food sustainability here in Hawaii.
Yeah, in a press conference this morning, Governor Josh Green provided an update on the transfer of 99 parcels of land to the Department of Agriculture. Now, the parcels, which were from the State Land Department, equal about 21,000 acres. The lands will be made available to farmers as part of a broader state initiative and include promotion of farm-to-table programs. Here's what the governor and ag leaders had to say about the transfer.
Essentially, by the time we get through this year, we will have done twice as much in 1 year as happened in 20 years. And I'm just really grateful to have had the leadership from the legislative champions to push us to get this done.
With this Act 90, the successes of the transfer of parcels, we have increased the amount of land that's coming over, but what we lack is production. We need to put the lands that we have into food production. We need to support that.
Now, the transfer is part of Act 90, which established a process for determining whether certain lands could be transferred from DLNR jurisdiction to the Ag Department. This was based on a review by the boards of both departments. As part of the effort, some 110,000 acres have been identified for transfer to the Ag Department.
Now, in our other top story, yesterday was the opening of the state legislature, and our Daryl Huff was there. I spoke with him about it.
It was kind of surreal in a way because it was so much themed around Maui, you know, and the crisis there, and so many of the issues that have been exposed by this fire disaster. It was very touching. I think many legislators have come to a moment where they're realizing how all of these issues are tied together and can be addressed in sort of a cohesive way. And most of them have been working in the interim since the fire to try and develop some pretty specific agenda items going forward to address these things.
Yeah, what are some of those priorities this legislative session? You've been talking to lawmakers. What are they looking forward to working on?
I think the number one thing is housing. You've got thousands of people, thousands of families that are still living in hotels there because their homes have been destroyed, and there's no place for them to go other than the hotels. And that led to a realization that in parts of Maui, most of the houses are short-term vacation rentals. Now, Maui had, like the other islands, this weird system where there were legal short-term rentals and there were those that were just historically doing it, and they came up with what they called the Minatoya list, which was all of these grandfathered properties that have never been officially permitted, but they're allowed to operate. And in some places, there was a figure thrown around yesterday, and I have not been able to verify it, that 87% of the properties in the northern part of West Maui, Napiliana, are vacation rentals. And that's a crazy situation.
That's a lot.
Basically, they've sold out the residential stock of Maui to the visitor industry. And so, you take the long-time issues about sustainable tourism, you mix that with the housing disaster, and so there's a real effort to figure out how to reduce the number of short-term rentals in the market, not just on Maui, but across the state.
Aside from housing, are there any other issues, maybe recreational marijuana coming up?
That'll come up. We're hearing kind of like a lot of equivocation about that. The Attorney General came up with a massive proposal, but then is sending another signal backstage that I'm not proposing that you do this, although if you do it, this is how you should do it. It was a sort of mixed messaging. Law enforcement will come out big time, and whether these committees want to devote a lot of time when there's other issues coming up, it remains to be seen. I doubt we're going to see that pass this year.
Let's also talk about the logistics now of getting into the Capitol, because this is the first time metal detectors have been in place. What was that like?
It was frustrating. It was ill-planned. It was rushed. They did not have enough people. The people they had didn't know what they were doing. And, I'm sorry, they had private security there. Sheriffs were standing around. The beauty of that building is it's open architecture. It's accessibility. That's wrecked. There were lines 200 people long to get into the chamber. It was frustrating. And for someone who's covered the legislature for many years, the ability to move around that building and go from one place to another, it's been wrecked. You can't, plus they have their own rules. So, like, for example, if you're on the chamber level, there's no bathroom for you. Mm-hmm. You have to go down through another metal detector to get to a bathroom. Mm-hmm. So it's just not ready for this kind of security level. Or if they had more resources put on it, they might have been able to pull it off.
Some critics might even say, why does Hawaii need this? We're such a safe state. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't feel any safer. The fact of the matter is, I know how I would sneak someone in the building if I had to. I mean, because it's still a building with lots of entrances, lots of ways in, lots of ways out. And, I think it was very symbolic, frankly. And, yes, if you could figure out how to do it well, seamlessly, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I think it's going to deter people from coming. Now, yesterday was a big day. The state of the state will be a big day. There will be certain days when it's quite busy, but you're not going to have that many people there. So it might be manageable, but in terms of the look and feel, it really was a substantial change.
Got it. Our Daryl Huff keeping an eye on our Hawaii State Legislature. Daryl, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, Dylan. Thank you.
Now, also at the Capitol yesterday, Lahaina Strong. They brought Maui residents to the Capitol to advocate for thousands of people who are still without homes. They are urging lawmakers to take action on the lack of affordable housing. Elsewhere around Oahu, a 2-alarm fire in the Lihue area sent a man and a woman to the hospital. It started around 5 o'clock this morning in a second-floor unit of the Lihue Sunrise Apartments on Lihue Street. Crews were able to put it out in about half an hour. Both the 59-year-old man and 39-year-old woman are being treated for smoke inhalation. The cause of the fire is under investigation.
A former substitute teacher at Pearl City High School is heading to federal prison for 17 and a half years for making child porn. 35-year-old Alden Bunag took a plea deal, only admitting to creating the porn, although prosecutors say he was also having sex with a 13-year-old student at school. During his arrest in 2022, investigators found thousands of videos and pictures, some of which showed the victim bound and in pain. Bunag, who has been in custody since then, will now have to register as a sex offender and pay $30,000 in restitution to the victims. A father and son are suing the Honolulu Police Department, claiming officers violated their civil rights during that New Year's Day manhunt that ended in Manoa. As you may recall, attempted murder suspect Sidney Tafokitau was killed by police. Turns out another man was severely injured. Ben Gutierrez has the story.
This fence is Exhibit A in a federal police brutality lawsuit. It alleges that this indentation was caused when a police van rammed a man who was believed to be a suspect in a 9-hour manhunt. Problem is, the manhunt actually ended 300 yards that way.
This is nothing short than an abomination.
Attorney Michael Rudy, flanked by Tavita Kariente and his father, Vaukehekehe Mataele, says the two men were approaching the scene where Sidney Tafokitau was killed by police when suddenly a police van rammed the 25-year-old and officers swarmed.
They dragged Tavita out from underneath the car and began to bludgeon his face with police weapons in what we believe is the butt end of their high-powered rifles.
Rudy says this photo shows Cariente's father handcuffed on the ground after telling police they had the wrong man.
And he said, my son, as he could hear his son crying out in pain. At which point one of the unidentified Doe officer defendants said, F your son.
The attorney says Cariente spent 3 days hospitalized with a facial fracture, a concussion, vision loss, and knee injuries. The lawsuit claims multiple violations of their constitutional rights. Over the years, HPD has settled multiple suits alleging brutality, but HNN's law enforcement analyst says a complaint of this severity is rare.
These are pretty serious allegations. I doubt if there'd be a settlement, depending on what the facts are. That would have to play out. And in a case where there's actual deprivation of civil rights, then As I said, the FBI normally and typically does get involved.
HPD has repeatedly declined to comment because of the lawsuit, but the police commission pressed Chief Joe Logan today for a response.
I think the problem with the statement just saying due to pending litigation, we're not going to comment is I don't feel like that's very acceptable in 2024.
Do we understand that something happened? We need to, we don't know what we don't know, so I can't go down the road of trying to comment on something. I'm not sure what the allegations are, what the facts are. So once we receive if in fact it is to us, and then we have a chance to discern what it says, then I think at that point in time, you're absolutely right.
While HPD won't comment, 2 officers were shot by Tefokitao that afternoon, and after the island-wide manhunt, tension was running high. But the lawsuit says the officers had a duty to protect innocent lives, not harm them.
It is a blatant example of a failure to train these officers, to failure to supervise them. We want those that are responsible to be held responsible.
Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
A newly released report from the Justice Department finds the emergency response to the 2022 Uvalde shooting in Texas was a failure. 19 children and 2 teachers were killed inside Robb Elementary, while hundreds of law enforcement officers waited outside. Lilia Luciano has the details of the report.
Failure and chaos. That's how a new Justice Department report describes the emergency response to the shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. More than 300 law enforcement officials were on the scene, but it took 77 minutes for them to confront and kill the gunman.
33 students and 3 of their teachers, many of whom have been shot, were trapped in a room with an active shooter for over an hour as law enforcement officials remained outside.
The DOJ's critical incident review found responding officers inside the school should have gone into the classroom immediately to stop the 18-year-old shooter. Some of the first officers on scene acted appropriately, but once they were grazed by bullets, they retreated. That's when the scenario changed from active shooter to barricaded.
That failure meant that law enforcement officials prioritized the protracted evacuation of students and teachers in other classrooms, instead of immediately rescuing the victims trapped with the active shooter.
Investigators place much of the blame on the school district's former police chief, Pete Arredondo, who displayed an epic lack of leadership, as well as the Uvalde PD acting chief, Mariano Pargas. The report found some responding officers lacked active shooter training and wasted time searching for a key to a classroom door that was likely unlocked. 17 families of victims are considering legal action.
Do right by the victims and survivors of Robb Elementary. Terminations, criminal prosecutions.
The DOJ says its goal is to honor the 19 students and 2 teachers killed inside Robb Elementary and provide law enforcement with recommendations to better handle active shooter situations. Lilia Luciano, CBS News, Uvalde, Texas.
Well, Congress seems to be on the verge of avoiding a partial government shutdown, which would take effect at 12:01 a.m. on Saturday. But the reprieve would be temporary, and there's still lots of work to do to reach an agreement on a long-term spending plan. Skylar Henry has more from Capitol Hill.
The bill is passed.
The Senate has passed a short-term spending bill to keep the government open.
There will not be a shutdown on Friday because both sides have worked together. The government will stay open. Services will not be disrupted. We will avoid a needless disaster.
And now it's up to the House. Some on the right oppose the short-term plan, meaning House Speaker Mike Johnson will need the help of House Democrats to pass the bill.
Passing the short-term bill gives Democrat and Republican negotiators more time to work on the bigger spending bill, which includes strengthening border security in exchange for more aid for Israel and Ukraine.
I'm engaged right now 24/7 in trying to land the border provisions of the agreement.
Some House Republicans are strongly resisting aid for Ukraine, but other GOP members say it's critical.
This is about ending Putin, and everybody needs to understand if we don't, those who choose not to own what I think will be the worst decision that they've made in their lives.
The Pentagon says it has run out of money to provide any more weapons to Ukraine until Congress acts. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Some Central Florida parents are upset after the state attorney said no charges would be filed against the pastor they say hit their kids with a belt. Now the parents tell Luana Munoz the fight is not over.
The pastor is technically the owner of the school and part of that school. The law extends what they call a parental privilege to those teachers. And this law says you cannot be convicted of a crime of battery.
At a press conference Wednesday, State Attorney Andrew Bain explained why he was not bringing charges of child abuse or battery against a pastor of St. Mark's AME Church in Orlando and the leader of its affiliated school, Alpha Learning Academy Orlando. The decision comes after Bain says he conducted an investigation into allegations that the pastor in question spanked 16 children.
My son said he came in, he put his stuff down, took his belt off and said, "You guys are going to stop playing, stop embarrassing my church." And he made them line up. The teachers were pointing them out. None of the kids volunteered.
According to parents, they say their kids were then told to bend over and were spanked at least 3 times with the belt.
It is not okay for us to whoop our own kid, let alone somebody else to whoop our child. My son is going through trauma, and he is still going through trauma. He just lost his dad on 22.
We thought that something was going to be dealt, something was going to happen, something. Like, he has to be punished for what he did.
According to Bain, the student handbook previously said that corporal punishment was allowed, but the current student handbook had that language removed, and the state attorney's office says the administrator didn't get the memo.
It's different from what we expect people to know, what they should know, and what we can prove that they knew.
Alpha Learning Academy released a statement Wednesday night saying, in part, we're currently working with our district leadership to determine next steps regarding the pastor's tenure, as well as how the school will operate moving forward. The pastor's voluntary sabbatical will continue while we work through this internal process.
Hilo's Big Island Candies is voluntarily pulling their Makana Brownie assortment box. A batch sold at their Ala Moana location was found to contain peanuts without warning. One customer has already reported suffering an adverse reaction. The products were sold between December 13th and 21st last year, and they were only sold at the Ala Moana location. We have more information on this recall on our website. The box can be returned to a Big Island Candy store for a full refund. And today, in a newly released statement by Big Island Candy COO Sherry Holy, the company sincerely apologized for the incident and said, quote, "The safety of our customers and products is something we take very seriously, and it's unfortunate that this issue occurred. A human error was made, and we are taking this to heart as a very important learning lesson," end quote. They're also taking extra steps to ensure this doesn't happen again.
All right, new at noon, a new show will bring authentic Hawaiian hula and culture to Waikiki for both visitors and kama'aina to enjoy. Check it out. So the Kilohana Hula Show will debut at the Tom Moffat Waikiki Shell in the coming months. The announcement was made today by Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi and the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. Organizers say it's a modern twist on the iconic Kodak Hula Show, which was an institution at the Shell before its last performance in 2002.
The Kodak Hula Show ran consecutively for over 60 years. It was one of the most popular destinations in Waikiki, and we believe that what we're going to present is going to be equally exciting. It will represent the best of Hawaii.
Now, organizers say the show will feature dancers from the reigning Merry Monarch Kalau and cast members from the renowned Old Lahaina Luau. No word on ticket prices yet.
So exciting. Love to see the culture on full display there. Let's go ahead and send you live outside now. It's a beautiful day here in Honolulu. Stick with us. Right after this, Guy Hoggy will have your full forecast.
We've got a long stretch of light winds and mostly dry conditions, likely to change sometime Tuesday night into Wednesday of next week. Until then, this is what we're looking at. Fairly dry conditions this morning. If anything, we might see some afternoon clouds and a few afternoon showers, but not likely to be heavy at any point. You see the winds are running very, very slow this morning. They'll run slow all the way until Tuesday. That's when approaching front will bring in some stronger winds as well as more rain. But rain will be very, very sparse for the next several days. We got lots of sunshine on tap statewide. Temperatures running into the middle 80s. Even Hilo is expecting lots of sunshine today. We've got lots of surf too. Even though this swell will be eventually dropping in the afternoon, high surf warnings will be posted all day long, and another reinforcing swell over the weekend will be just as big, triggering another high surf warning. Not a whole lot happening in town because of those south and southwest winds. It's going to be pretty messy out there. So for the next few days, the weather's going to be very, very nice with lots of sunshine, very little rain, light winds all the way through Sunday into Monday. Now on Tuesday, a front's going to drop in Tuesday night. We're going to see some stronger winds all the way through Wednesday. We'll see more showers Tuesday night and Wednesday. And there's a chance that that front brings in some heavy rainfall as well.
Next time on Investigate TV Plus, a scam growing across the country that can catch you completely off guard.
Had you ever heard of SIM swapping before it happened?
I'd never heard of this before.
An in-depth look at SIM swapping and how hackers are locking people out of their virtual lives.
Well, we've all heard about the sub-zero temperatures that are sweeping across many places of the continent, and now a Canadian man took advantage of that and used it to get creative. Jeannie Mose has a story.
When it's 40 or 50 degrees below zero, you can't blame a guy for taking boiling water and blowing off a little steam, watching it instantly turn into snow and ice. But photographer Joe Chawanik of Alberta, Canada, got a kick out of seeing what other people did. How cold is it? Cold enough to use a banana to pound a nail. Cold enough to beat a frozen shirt like a drum. To turn jeans into a battering ram. So Joe decided to do his own game of, you froze your what off?
The next one was the plate of ramen noodles.
In 60 seconds, the boiled noodles were frozen stiff.
Frozen in time. The Frozen in Time series, I guess I'm calling it.
The next experiment involved placing an egg on a couple of straws and cracking it open. Forget hard-boiled, we're talking frozen solid.
My neighbors were looking out the window and thought I was crazy.
And finally, there was something charming, make that Charmin, about what the severe cold did to toilet paper.
People should make the best of the conditions they're in.
But don't try using it, or you will truly freeze your butt off. In the immortal words of Annie Lennox, cold, cold, cold. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
Oh my goodness, that's insane how cold it is.
That's why we live here, Dylan.
Yeah.
Sorry to our viewers on the mainland who are cold. We apologize.
Yeah.
Time for one more story? Okay, So today the nation is celebrating a beloved bear. January 18th is National Winnie the Pooh Day. The unofficial holiday coincides with his creator's birthday. Now, the fictional honey-loving bear is actually based on a black bear at the London Zoo during World War I. The author's son, Christopher Robin, adored the bear and, of course, is featured in the dad's stories. Disney bought the rights to Winnie the Pooh in the 1960s.
Happy Winnie the Pooh Day, everyone. Let's end today with another live look outside. Thank you all so much for watching.